Welcome to XXL's Inside Track, a podcast that shines a spotlight on some of hip-hop's most influential industry executives, entrepreneurs, and more. I'm Vanessa Satten, Editor-in-Chief of XXL. Join me and my esteemed co-host, music executive Courtney Lowery, as we hold in-depth conversations with the legendary figures that run the hip-hop community. We'll discuss their journey and daily grind, their contribution to the culture, the intricacies of their jobs, plus the ins and outs of the music genre that unites us all. This is XXL's Inside Track. What's up? I'm Vanessa Satten, Editor-in-Chief of XXL. Thank you for joining us for XXL's Inside Track podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Courtney CL, a illustrious industry friend of mine, and we have Steve Carless, who is the president of A&R, Associated Labels Black Music, and the founder, creator, godfather, honcho of Defiant Records.
I like that.
You like that?
That was exciting.
I'm glad I worked on that. All right, so here we are talking. We're going to kick it off with Courtney's favorite topic, entrepreneurship.
So talk to me about the importance of entrepreneurship, and what does that mean to you?
I think it's an incredible skill set that you must have to not only survive but navigate our new record business, right? Mm-hmm. Like entrepreneurs, I feel like are the most creative, most able, most thoughtful, most passionate people because you have to find a way, right? And if you take that ideology and apply it to the work that we do, whether we're music executives, whether we're managers, whether we're people that are building businesses, you need that kind of like grit and chip on your shoulder to be able to get through the different levels that you got to get through.
Right. So most of your career, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're a very seasoned label guy. And so is that a safe space, or do you feel like you have to be an entrepreneur as a label executive? Because
I label executive at Warner, because I don't think I just mentioned the Warner part. When I said your title, yes, you worked for Warner Records. It's got a title at Warner, but yes, and then a history at Def Jam.
Yes, for sure. I've spent 99% of my career at a major record company.
Okay.
Right? But I do value myself as an entrepreneur.
Right.
I value myself as entrepreneurial spirited. And it's new because people like to put categories or boundaries on what you are, what you should be.
Right.
But I've always I've always approached the job that I'm doing as an entrepreneur-minded person, right? And I think that's where all of my successes come from. That's where all of my innovation and my inspiration and all my aspirations have led me to go. And that's why I think I've had a tenure that I've had for as long as I've had it, because I've been able to shape shift with the business and evolve in real time the way the marketplace and the landscape is moving, because I just always wanted to be adept to what's happening in real time, as opposed to like living up against the rules and the boundaries of what the institution gives us as a record executive.
Got you.
What's the state of the record industry right now for you? To you? We had a lot of recent layoffs within the space, which made people concerned, wondering what's going on with things. What's your take on what's going on in the industry right now?
I think it's interesting, right? I believe that it's always hard to answer because I have a lot of friends that lost their jobs, right? But when you look at it, the game is shifting, and where the business is versus where the business was are two different things. And how artists are developing and what they need from major record companies have also changed. Right. What the new developing kids and what the new generation is doing has changed. So everyone up and down the totem pole has to reflect today's marketplace, right? It's, when I got into business, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, right? And there was Tower Records, and then there was Napster, and then there was that, and all those iterations needed response of change in order to evolve and adapt to what the consumer, the listener, or even what the creator was doing. Right. So how I feel about the state of the business now, I just think it's ever evolving. I think we're in a generational shift. I feel like the artists that we've been seeing for the last decade or so are getting into a new phase of legacy in their career, and how we see the new kids that are bubbling up. It's going to take them a long time to be considered those next people, right? Because when I was coming up, we knew who the hip hop forefathers were. We knew who was popular. We
and
knew,
cared about it.
Yeah, and it was a different time. I feel like the world was a lot slower.
Yeah.
And the access to information and public opportunity just wasn't there. But now that it's there and it moves in a faster pace, it's really about what's the value of it now that everyone has it. So I think as that continues to turn over, there's just new opportunities that we can see. I don't really see the negative side of it. I really see the positive side of it.
Right.
I see more opportunity than I do trouble.
Are you a glass half full person by nature?
Yes.
All right.
100%. I'm just unrealistically optimistic about everything. Everything's an opportunity. Even in my worst days, I was told by one of my dear friends that anytime something bad happens, there's a piece of game to take from it. So as much as this is bad, as much as there's an opportunity for us, it's just a matter of who's going to find it. If there's a problem, obviously, across the board, and it's being addressed. Now, who's going to put the creative solutions in place to make that bridge?
Somebody's got to do it.
Someone will do it. It's not someone got to do it. Someone will do it. And I'm hoping that you get in line and make sure that whatever your place is, that you're one of those people that can contribute to that answer.
With the ever-changing landscape of the music business, does that shape the way you go and seek talent?
Yeah, 100%. I really have because of my tenure, what's unique for me, and I don't know how it is for anyone else. I'm a person, and everyone's experience is different. I get my information from everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't have like a process. Right, I walk down the street, I might hear something, like something. I might be at my daughter's recital. I might be with a friend who's always pitching. They might have pitched me 150 things. I've ignored 149 of them. You just don't know.
Yeah.
I think greatness comes from anywhere. So I try to be as open-minded as possible and try not to take anything for granted. So my process has allowed me to be very fluid with the universe and the world and how it comes, especially when it comes from creative people, because no one would ever believe the things that we talk about that we value as successful. It was never a place we thought it would come from anyway.
Yeah.
All right, as a glass half full person, what frustrates you?
People are lazy. I think there's a stereotype to music executives. I think there's a cliche to it.
Major label music executives,
Yeah.
the man, the bad man, the label fucked you over.
Yeah, it's like I always get treated like I'm predatory, right? So even if I have the most integrity and I have like I feel like I have a great aura, I have great relationships, I have such a meaningful career, I have like this immaculate resume of accolades, and then I get into a room and then I have to almost shutter that down because I want to make sure I don't sound like folks that are trying to sell them something that may not be true.
I relate to that in the media side because sometimes you're trying to tell the story the right way, document hip-hop accurately, respect the culture and all of that, but you could also be looked at as a predator who's just trying to get a story from somebody or try to factor in information when that's not always the case if you walk into the room. You're not always looking to get something or so-and-so, but feels kind of similar is that, there's a certain agenda that isn't there that I think people think the agenda is,
Yeah, sometimes I sit with artists and they'll sit down and then they'll mute. They're like, sell me.
Yeah.
And that bothers me because I get it, but it's just tough, like for me, like those are personal things that bother me because I'm excited to meet the artists, and it's almost like they're after all the meetings or whoever they've been talking to or whatever conditioning they've had or wherever they come from, they're just like, well, sell me now. Sell me on why I want to be a part of your company or part of this huge infrastructure. Sell me. And then once you sell me, give me lots of money for it. And there's so much of that I get, but then it's incredibly challenging to kind of like live through it. For someone who's as purposed and as diligent and as intentional as I try to be in everything that I do, to get that, it really throws me off a lot of the times. So it's uncomfortable, you know what I mean? And to try to do good work at a major record company in the new era, while things are consolidating and getting more streamlined and ever evolving and changing, is very, very, it'll definitely trick your psyche out a little bit.
So where does Defiant fit in that?
Well, Defiant is like my little creative thought process. It's a lab. It's an understanding of like, I want to be, my whole career has always been about how to service artists and how to service them in a meaningful way. Like I was telling y'all before this, like my whole entire journey, I've been in almost every department. I've been on the street team, passing out flyers, lifting poster boards, clipping fire hydrants. I've been in clubs. I've been back
Best
then.
of both offices.
Exactly. We would do ocktails. We go into ocktails. No one even knows what that is no more. But we would go into nightclubs, and when your record got played, we call our phone and wait for the voicemail to come on to prove that the DJ was playing our record in the club that night. And I come from that level of work, right? Mm-hmm. That level of engagement to the work that we wanted to really accomplish. So to now go this far and make something where you can kind of be vertically integrated and kind of create your own narrative and story and then curate it a certain way is really what I wanted Defiant to be.
How important is that for someone who is an entrepreneur thinking of developing their own property, their own entity, in order to do every single job?
I think it's important because, like, when you understand, when you love what you do, you're always going to point out the imperfections of it, right? Yeah. Like, we love ourselves, so we go in the mirror and we be like, I got to go work out more, or I got to get a new shirt, or I got to fix something. We're always our greatest critics, right? So I feel like entrepreneurs are the same thing. They always want to, they have a very particular vision of the world they want to be in. So they try to create it. And when you create it, you solve the problems of what you experience that you may not like have liked, mm-hmm. right? So if you're like, oh, well, I'm going to build a company that tells all the stories, because you might feel like no one's doing that.
Right.
That's kind of like an example to that. So I feel like that's important, and that's also like a very meaningful shot that you take and right. you do when you're trying to do that type of work. But overall, I think that it's important because I like the way people think, and I think the new world order is about individuality and kind of being very bespoke about the things that you're doing and the things that you like and how they're coming out.
Heard you talk about major label and also your own entity. What are the pros and cons of major versus indie?
Oh, because everybody's so proud to be indie.
Yeah.
In so many ways, but then you have Are You Not True Indie and the controversy there. We saw that with Megan Thee Stallion recently and everyone acting that.
Yeah. I think it's all point of view. I think artists today, they have to know what they want. There's just too much information available. So it's a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
If an artist, I give you an example. It depends on who you're talking to and when you're talking to them. But if an artist hasn't put out their own music, more times over, you're going to be like, well, why? There's just too many access points for you to put out your own music and try and test your audience, right? So if they don't do that and they're like, well, I'm waiting for you to do it for me, it's a big question. Now, that's not to say that's not unique or that's,
or they're not talented or whatever
that does not mean that. And that doesn't mean that we wouldn't take them in. But I'm always looking at that through a specific lens. Like, I'm always going to question that. I'm always going to say why someone who has the power of mobile in the palm of their hands not do that.
Right.
And then I'm also, on the flip side of that argument, I can also say is like, well, why do artists want to come to record labels if they don't really want to do the work? And sometimes they don't know the work. Everyone just comes and says, I just want to be big. Mm-hmm. And I always try to put context on what does big mean.
Correct.
Do you understand that? You have to answer the questions in a very specific, detailed manner in order for you to get the full understanding and the use of the universe that the major record companies give you. And I don't know if all artists come understanding that. Right. And that's where you kind of get the washout on both sides. I think they're both important. I think they're both necessary for each other. And I also believe there's a world where they both exist very well. But the record companies can talk in a way, and I call this black magic. You've seen it. Like, you've never seen 7,000 people faced in one direction on one record till you go into a major record company, right? And I know there's like great come away stories with artists and fan bases and audiences and songs and territories all year long, right? You get those things, right? And there's lots of important artists that come from that sector as well. But I just understand that I've seen that before, and I don't care what era it comes from. It's just like, that's just a power of, our business is about relationships. So when you get 7,000 people leveraging their relationships, it's something to be seen, as opposed to like a handful of people that do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's also mega powerful, because a lot of popular acts and big artists also have those seminal folks as well. You know what I'm saying? So I just think it's just like, you just got to understand what you're asking for. And I think a lot of artists, managers, and businesses that come to the major record labels, they don't have a clear understanding of what that is or how to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
20 years in the game?
Yeah.
20 years in the game. What are some of the best moments you've been excited to be around musically? Things that you've been able to see, studio moments, that sits with you?
Too many to name.
What do you want to brag about?
I don't know what I can brag about. It's too many. Too many. If I say one, I feel like I disrespected another.
Okay, so you've worked extensively with Nipsey and have been part of keeping his legacy. Tell us a little bit about working on that, because when I think of Nipsey, I think of you, and your connection to his career and his legacy. Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I came on as a contributing party for Nipsey maybe 10, 12 years ago. And just an individual that was just, what was unique to me was he was an artist that wanted to understand his business. And I think at the time I was in my career, I had never experienced an artist like that.
Where were you in your career? What are you doing? Where were you at?
I was a promotions guy at Def Jam. We were doing Best of Both Offices, so which was our like artist development brand that was more digitally laid into like social media promotion and content development, right? So at that point, I've worked with many artists. It's either artists you looked up to that you always revered and you're a fan of them, or the new artists that were coming, they were just trying to meet their dreams. And this was the first time someone had never told me, it's like, I don't care about this. I just want to understand my business so I could be vertically integrated. I want to be able to sign it, make it, develop it, market it, distribute it, all in-house by me. Yeah. And I just need to understand how that works at a major record company, because I feel like some of the deal structures they've been given, because they allot me bandwidth and employees to do that kind of work, that they're predatory about it. So if I understand that, I can build my own infrastructure and we can be great. And from that just was fascinating. That was just completely fascinating. I became more of a charitable giving of insight to what budgets are, what they look like, the context of it.
From seeing it his perspective.
No, just other projects I was working on, I would share with them.
Gotcha.
I'd be like, hey, we're working on Jeezy's project. Here's what it looks like. Oh, wow.
But was it that conversation that you had, or the way that you were challenged, that made you go and take a deeper dive into how the business how the business of music works?
I would say, yeah. I mean, look, all of us, when we're on our own independent journeys of trying to be aspiring music executives and trying to climb the ladder, we're all trying to find ourselves, but also trying to find what's our way of business. When we look back to the greats, when we think about Lior or Kevin or Russell or anybody that's in that ecosystem that they come from, is like, you always want to, what's your kind of like language that you're gonna kind of speak and how you're gonna do it. And I think for me at that point, it was about, I just never felt nothing like that. I was like, I've actually met an individual outside of being like the aspiration of having a dream to be in the record business. Right. Someone that was actually trying to understand the other side of it that no one really knows. Yeah. Like, how does this really operate? Like, what's A to Z? What are the numbers? What's the financials on it? What's the order of operations? What's the process and procedures? Right. Who are the people? What does it cost? What does it really take? What's overspent? What's underspent? Yeah. How to measure those things and really get information is really how we really bonded, him and I. And that just took us on a journey where what I was able to provide in my day-to-day job versus what he was learning as he was developing not only as just a creative artist, but also a business entrepreneur on the other side, made a unique dynamic that I don't want to say it's new to the record business, but it was definitely innovation in that new generation. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. And we were playing at that. Everyone was trying to get on the radio, and we were trying to figure out how to sell CDs. You know what I'm saying?
We were talking to Kevin Lyles, and he told us how important that one-on-one relationship is with you and an artist. Yeah. You know, that he gets the calls of like, you're doing your dad shit now, Kevin, or that kind of stuff. Is that something that you felt with Nipsey? Not the dad relationship, but the one-on-one, we clicked and we were on the same page. And you feel that the same with other artists, or how essential is that for you to function?
Yeah, Nipsey and I feel like we were shooting at the same basket. We don't have the same goals per se, but we wanted the same things out of what we were striving for. Example, he was just like, I want to be financially free. I want to be autonomous. Yeah. I want the free reign to be creative. I want the opportunity to represent something in a way authentically that I feel like a lot of other artists or other creatives give up because they want to play this kind of game. Yeah. And I just thought that was brilliant. I thought that that's exactly who I wanted to be. I wanted to be a music executive that didn't falter to integrity. I always wanted to be bold and prideful, but truthful in rooms. I wanted to be able to excite artists without lying to them. I wanted to be able to contribute something without taking something. I wanted to be an equal exchange. I never wanted it to be like the experience that they would tell you later that is predatory. I never want anyone's dealing with me to feel predatory. I always wanted to feel like whatever I contribute in the time that I spend and sacrifice, that one, they appreciated it, but two, they found value in it, right? And that's where we were aligned. And I think that's where we clicked, and that's how we were able to build something beautiful. And I think I've contributed many bricks to that kingdom, and I'm proud of it. And I try to take that process and that experience and that journey and apply it to everything that I'm doing going forward.
What does the future look like for Defiant?
Oh man, my prayer and hope is to feel and represent what all the indie labels of our generation felt like, right? Whether it be the Rockefellers or it be the Murder Incs. or the DTPs or the...
Because that was a heyday of having all of those labels and those crews at the same time.
I just believe in it. I just feel like they went down...
You believe in it or you miss it?
I believe in it. I do miss it, but I believe in it because I think there's an opportunity for it. When I look into our time now, there's only 300. There's Alamo, there's QC, there's APG. There's like these companies that are specific in rap and hip hop music, right? And whatever they want to quantify as hip hop music is like there's only a few brands and consortiums that are building talent out of their home markets and then trying to scale them across the line. Right. And when you look at the majors are just like, they're harvesting, right? And that's a beautiful thing too. That's what we got to do. Like we're a hit-driven business. We're trying to scale great music and products, and I would never do nothing different. But if there's an opportunity for a brand, a point of view, an artist, an area, something that means something to a smaller group of people that you could take across the world, I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Who are your mentors?
Oh, I got a lot of them. I got here through a lot of different ways. There's a lot to name. I would tell you, No ID is someone, and not even in terms of what you should do, but just listening to like your experience and just kind of holding up a mirror. He's very good at holding up a mirror and have you address the mirror. So he never has a statement. It's always questions, and that's been incredibly valuable to me because I always felt like a mentor is always someone that tells you what to do or try to guide you, and in this instance, it's always like, well, what do you want out of it? Or just asking questions that kind of challenge why are you doing what you're doing and what you're doing it for? And I found so much value in that. Like I call him at least once a week for those types of things. You know what I mean? And there's Benny Pugh, who is a former executive. But
you worked with Benny for a long time, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And he's a radio, but I really learned radio from him. I learned like the ins and outs of the business of radio promotions and marketing through him.
Yeah.
Right. So at a high level, and there's been many other people, but like just talking to him and just really getting the foresight just as a black man.
Absolutely.
Coming up.
Shout out to Benny for that.
Yeah, just as a black man, you just want to understand and receive certain things. And you know, you always want to feel like someone that the journey that you're on is like, it's not just a new journey for yourself. It's someone that's walked it 7 times already. So talking to these types of men, and there's many more, is like they always make me feel great because I don't feel special.
It's individual to you because it's your journey, but it's not individual to you because it's not the first.
And it's just great perspective. It's just like, okay. So it's almost, I've learned this is like choose your heart. And that's like my new mantra going forward is like choose your heart. It's like, my heart is all built out of aspiration, of ambitious things that I want to do for myself, and how I want to build a company, and just all what I really want to contribute. And not to sound cliche, to culture, but they say your success is always derived from how many people you've helped. So with the things that I've been successful in, it's not really about me celebrating the work that I did. It's really celebrating how that helped those artists or those people achieve what they always wanted to do.
Yep. So a career spanning 20 plus years in the game, there had to be some things that are pivotal moments that shaped where you are today, shaped your thinking, shaped the way you approach projects, artists, signings. Can you take us through some of those?
Yeah.
He sounds tired of him.
Sounds like he's dealing with one now.
Yeah, no, it's a tough. There's no question that all of us across the business, even in the creative sector, is like it's a tough time. It's just a tough time. It's like, you know.
I mean, you're watching it every day and reported in different places in entertainment as a whole. So
that's what it's like on the business side, but aspirational side, you want to find great talent. You want to find great artists, but we also work.
Is there less of that, or is it as much as there used to be? There's more of it. Okay.
You just got to thumb through it. But you also got to remember too, is like our jobs are predicated on like we got to make money. They're businesses. So there's a thin line between art and commerce. Yeah. And you got to be really good about balancing that. And sometimes some people do better than others, and sometimes you do better than the last time. I'm not perfect all the time, but that's kind of the goal when you get out of bed every morning, is how to do the best job at balancing great things that you can deliver, but also meet the needs of the business, right? Because the business is always going to make decisions based on how it plays out in the marketplace. Right. So if it's good, then the marketplace loves it. That means you got a great product. But that doesn't always show up. You might have a great product, it goes to the market, but not enough people know that it's great yet. Yeah. Or have adopted that they should have it or want it or need it, and that can affect business, and you know that affects decisions. And you got to just be great, one, about how you communicate that, and two, how you balance that with what is right or wrong, because also all products aren't great. Right.
Which I was going to get at. So do you feel, as someone who signs talent and introduces them to the world, do you feel a responsibility for the types of content that an artist puts out that you're responsible for signing, or do you give them free reign? How do you feel about that?
I am very free range. I feel like my belief system is art is free reign, like it's self-expression. One example that's a very hot topic that always seems to be attached to my name is like the drill movement out of New York City. Yeah. And I hear people say, there's no upside, there's no this, there's no longevity in it. It's tired. It's the same thing over and over again. And I'm quick to differ with them. It's like, okay, well, all the kids I look at, they're all between this age. They're all between the ages of 16 and 25. They're all from the inner city, outer boroughs. They're all their parents, 98% of their parents are immigrants. So I got to ask you a question. Why are they rapping about that? And what are they talking about? Now,
I never thought about the 98% of their parents being immigrants. I hadn't seen that pointed out. Yeah, interesting.
There's no facts that back that. I'm just saying,
I get it.
98% of the people I talk to.
98% of your percentage.
Of my percentage is, that's what it is. So I say, like, so y'all say they're drilling, and it's negative and that ain't going nowhere, but that's their reality. That's their experience. That's what they do. Why are all the teenagers doing that?
Yeah.
I'm just asking. I don't know why they're doing that, but they're doing it. They're not just doing it here. They're doing it all around the world in many different territories. Yeah. Why are all the kids of a specific generation doing this? So until someone has a better answer than that it's not good, I don't want to hear about it. I'm saying that's culture speaking to itself. And I told y'all when I was 15, I had a picture of Nas, the Nostradamus poster over my bed. Yeah. And my mom was like, take that down. That's noise. Like, that's garbage music. That's not Marvin Gaye or the Temptations. So I value it in the same conversation, parallel, many, many years later to the same thing. It's like, this is the music of a generation. So whatever that represents, I'm going to stick to it, whether you feel like it's scalable, mainstream or not, but that's what it is. No one thought Mobb Deep with Juvenile Hell was going to be, a mainstream around the world
as revered as it was, yeah.
But that's what I listen to every day.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So who are you? Like, no one can't tell me what means something feeling and culturally and what the opportunity of it is future-wise and how it can scale. I just see the same patterns when I look at those things that way.
All right, so be a label exec, name drop some names that you're working with, and then be a fan, name drop some names that you think are moving that you haven't had the luxury to sign.
I'm working with NLE Choppa right now. I work at Warner. We're like a new company. It's an old company, historic company, but we're like in a new iteration of it. So we have Sweetie, we have NLE Choppa, we have Zach Bryan, we have Benson Boone, we have Fields, we have O'Malley. We have such a window shop of different genres of people, and it's really the first time in my career I've worked for a company of this size, of this magnitude, that has a variety in all these multiple genres.
Because Def Jam was focused.
My back end is like, I come from a rap label. That's just what I come from. You know what I'm saying? So that part is exciting because I feel like you got to match your game to that. You know what I mean? You match your game to kind of that kind of skill set versus being like an expert specialist in like rap, street rap type of things. You know what I mean?
So I was gonna ask. So coming from a rap label like a Def Jam, and then going to a Warner, which has a more, it's not just rap, predominantly just rap. Is the approach different on how you approach different projects, different signings outside of hip hop, or are there some similarities on how you approach them?
No, I approach everything from a human standpoint because these are all people that have an expression. So we start there, but maybe some of the strategies that we take and move because of what the genre is and where it's from.
Right.
I try to treat everything as its own individual thing as opposed to stereotyping it across like what a genre does, because I don't know what a genre does, like, because what we value today as hip hop or rap wasn't that 5 years ago, and definitely wasn't that 15 years ago. So,
well, genre is kind of boxing things in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's easier for people to understand what it is from like
to give the awards.
Yeah, I mean, if no, the award thing, that's a whole nother drama. But what I'm saying is, for me, I'm gonna approach it very one-on-one and look at it like I got an artist, what can it scale? Yeah. That's why when I came into Warner, even though I've been predominantly in hip hop and R&B my entire career, I never wanted to be like boxed into like I can do that, just that thing. And I know that's my superpower. Right. And I'm very clear about my skill set in that, but it's also like music is a universal thing.
Absolutely.
Right? We talk about pop music as pop culture. So when, like we talked off cameras, like when you have Ice Spice, that's a pop mainstream act to me.
I was trying to keep it all
popular,
off camera,
right? But when I look at it and I decode it, she's a drill rapper from the Bronx. So what are y'all saying?
Do you wish you signed her?
Every day of the week. Who doesn't want to sign success? But what it makes me feel good is like she keeps raising the bar for the people to come behind her.
Yeah.
And being someone as an early adopter and that went into the space really believing in that it's really just comes true for my theory. It's just like, why are all the kids doing this and then one has it? It's not that she's definitely special, but at the same time, it's like she still comes from these kids. So how could you guys say that about these kids? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've always looked at, and it's over time that it's evolved into this, but my initial what pop culture is over time evolved because it becomes popular. You know, I think a lot of times when people think pop, they think of, you know, a white singer, you know, and that's not that all the time. It's popular music, and I think she is the example of that. She's
that's like
popular
the
now,
Super Bowl. You have Taylor Swift there bringing her in to stand next to her.
Right.
You can't get poppier than Taylor Swift.
There you go.
I think. I don't know.
Here's the hard part. The definitions update every 18 months to me. So what they value as pop ain't pop today. Like Taylor Swift was a country artist when she came.
There you go.
So it's unfair to call her one thing versus the other because she's allowed to evolve into new spaces and new ways. And
well, that's the thing. You're allowed to change and explore your artistry. And some people often want to box you into being a certain thing. I mean, we'll say, oh, they have a new sound. Yeah. And, you know, they sound different or they're doing something different or they have a baby voice or they have a this or they have a that. And, you know, there can be a negative connotation with that when an artist isn't your job to explore all the mediums of it if you have the opportunity or want to.
Yeah, that's all with the rise of technology. Like before, the record companies were able to curate very intentionally what they wanted, where they controlled shelf space. You go to Tower Records, there could only be X amount of albums on the shelf space. There's only X amount of end caps. There's X amount of TV shows, X amount of radio stations. There's X amount of slots on the playlist. It was very finite. Today's landscape is not finite. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Miss Carter one day, and it was like when we worked together, it was really about, you know, you're sharing shelf space with a little kid that might be doing a song out of their bedroom. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's not the same. You could be side by side on the playlist with that. So as much as they want to act like that's editorialized to a certain degree, if it has pull, if it has want, and it has consumption, it's going to be right next to you. So you can make your shelf space. So the games have changed and there's no rules.
With the loss of Nipsey, with the loss of Juice WRLD, with the loss of XXXTentacion, do you think there was a lot of talents that hip-hop has taken a hit and lost over the years that has changed the landscape at all?
100%. All the transformative artists got lost in that. Right. So who knows what that could have been, right? But what could we say about it? It happened and it is what it is. But I do believe like it would be a different world, right? Because what they were doing and their points of views of where their aspirations were leading them already showed us early what it could be. Like, remember Nipsey passed away on the eve of, like, after his debut album. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No matter how much of us knew him from the underground and we understood,
he'd been around a long time, but
he was just breaking ground. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a global, worldwide celebrity.
I don't think of it that way because he had been around a long time, but it's a good point of, you know, there's a whole audience that didn't know yet.
Yeah. And I think that's the part that's tragic but beautiful at the same time. And it just lets me know, like, the theory and the combustion of, like, new generation and new acts and how things are redefining and there's no rules and who's making waves and who's trying to, like, I don't like to use the word crossover, but who's blending and innovating sounds and techniques and points of views. I think those things become part of the fabric of what the future is going to be. And I'm going to make my bet on those type of things.
Mm-hmm. Courtney and I were talking earlier with the group, starstruck moments, what you've been starstruck to be around. What was it? I can't believe I'm here. Or I met this person and I couldn't, you know, we were talking about what knocked us out. Because you do, you know, come across a lot of different celebrities along the way, and sometimes you can be jaded by that, right? Mm-hmm. But has there been I can't believe I'm in the room with this person, not hip-hop related, just in general? I mean, they could be in Arthur, they could be anybody.
Oh, I do have one.
Okay, tell us your starstruck story.
My starstruck story is I had just been working at Def Jam maybe about 2 years, and I think this was we went to Connecticut to the Foxwoods, and this is when Jay was the president of Def Jam and LA was running in and Steve Bartles was there, and they did this company retreat, and they were pooling all of their artists, all the new acts that they wanted to showcase to the company, all the superstars they were signing, and we did like these 3-day workshops, and on the second night we go in, and we go into this I guess it's a restaurant where they're having like dinner. It's like a private dinner. No one said anything, and my jaw hit the ground. Now this was on the heels of Jay and Nas kind of mending the fences from their issues in the past, but no one had knew about it. So being one of the biggest Nas fans on this side of planet Earth.
Nostradamus, your mom said take that down.
Yep. And coming into a room and seeing him in the room with Jay-Z.
Yeah.
LL Cool J was there. All the artists were there. Neo, I want to say Rihanna was there. Chrisette Michelle. I said J-Lo already, right?
No.
J-Lo, because she was on the label. It was all these artists, and they started partying. They all started standing on tables while they were partying. So seeing Nas, Jay, J-Lo, LL Cool J on a table hugging with L.A. Reid and like partying, I had never seen nothing like that in my life. And I was like, I can't even go home and tell nobody this because no one will believe me. And this is the era before
social media
and anyone posting it.
So you didn't have to worry about everybody with a phone in the room and all of that.
It wasn't even a worry. You were scared to even mention it because it was such a private but amazing moment. That was the most starstruck thing I've probably ever been across in my life. Many others, but it's just like that one was paramount above all because to this day I'm like, you can't match the level of people that were in the room at one time from all walks of life that you would never believe would be. It was like the backstage to the Grammys, but everyone was partying and drinking tequila together.
Wow. You named some pretty big heavy hitters who are timeless artists. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone right now that, whether you're working with or whether or not, that you feel is timeless?
Beyonce.
Of this
that was his starstruck moment. That was his starstruck moment. That was my
starstruck moment, a Beyonce moment. But of this current generation, or it could be too early to tell. What do you think?
I think someone that could be that might be SZA. If I had to make my bet, New Jersey native, I go with SZA.
Okay.
She just her music. Every iteration seems to scale at another level creatively, not just marketing or just consumption-wise, but just creatively, conceptually, it just scales at a different level every single time. And I don't know if I've seen that since maybe Rihanna. Not that they're the same or
right comparison,
no.
But just like just measuring it like lyrically, creatively, what it means culturally, aesthetically, and then it's so authentic. It's authentic musically, it's authentic. Socially, it's authentic. It's just authentic. There's nothing that feels like an oversell or a mishap or goofy.
And the personality.
And his personality. And this is like, it's just pure art. It's like just pure artistry at its greatest level. So I'd have to mark that in my book now. It's like, obviously, I'm a big Drake fan, but I would lean towards SZA.
All right, so executive. A lot of artists out there, a lot of aspiring executives out there. You've been and seen a lot and still have a lot more to go. What's your advice for people who want to be in your shoes and people who want to be in the shoes of the artists you work with?
Easy. Go do the work. Do your 10,000 hours. I know that sounds cliche, but I really preach it to the people that work for me and I work with. Is like, let's focus on doing the work. There's a lot to get out of the work. There's a lot of pain in it. But I think pain informs many great lessons. You know what I mean? It's like going to the gym every morning and lifting weights or running. Like right now I'm running the marathon and I've never ran a marathon in my entire life, right? And the practice and the preparation and the attention that you got to take to keeping your body up. but also being able to endure that level of strain for that amount of time. There's a lot of things you learn about yourself, and I'm just a big, like, that's like a great metaphor to be like, let's do the work and be intentional about everything we do, every step we take. And I learned that because everything that I've done the work. So all my work that I do, I'm very proud of it because I've sacrificed so much to do that level of work.
The people who are ready to do the work is the people who do the jobs no matter what has to get done.
Yeah, but sometimes they got to be pushed. You got to teach them. You know what I mean? Like, the generations are evolving. Like, my 10-year-old daughter's on a tablet, right? I didn't have a tablet when I was 10 years old. So I just think we got to lift and we got to bring and coach and guide and tell them what real work is and what real work's not. It's not just because you can get a result fast, because you can Google something doesn't mean you have the information. Do you understand the information?
And what does that mean when you say do the work for the aspiring artists that are out there?
On the artist side, it's, are you really truly, do you care about your craft? I sit with artists all day, and they're like, the first thing I ask them is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that sounds a little crass, but they're like, I want to be big. And I'm just like, well, what's big? Give me context on that.
But you're talking with young artists where these are some of their first jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So it makes sense. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, but they're conditioned. There's a condition. There's a belief. There's a little bit of a reputation that our business has about like what it can do. That dream weavers, like, I'm here for a dream. I'm like, nah, are you ready to do the work? Are you willing to go to rehearsals every day, 7 days a week? Are you
going to show up on time?
Are you going to show up on time? Are you organized? Are you willing to take care of your body? Are you willing to take care of your voice? Are you mentally healthy? Are you financially savvy? Do you have a team in place? Those are the type of things.
Move the people away from
it's
you
not
that
about
aren't good
just
for you. Yeah.
going to the studio and then giving me a music video. Are you really prepared? Do you have the drive? Because when I go out, I see talented, brilliant people all day long. That's what I'm supposed to do. But how I measure them is who has a drive, who's determined, who wants to be greater than what they did yesterday. And you don't find that all the time. But that's so you know who are the important artists and what they're going to be and how they're going to get there.
Does that deter you from signing someone that may have the talent but doesn't necessarily have the drive? Or is that something that you see that there's a void and it needs to be filled and something that needs to be cultivated? How do you
For me, I'm not going to an artist that doesn't have drive. It's a waste of time.
So they could have a buzz, and the buzz could be
I
growing
don't care
and growing,
nothing
and you
about
could
a buzz.
see
You
through
can
that.
sign to someone else. I tell every artist, I'd rather be your friend. Let's be friends. But we don't need to be in business, because I know what that's going to heed me.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I just sat with an artist the other day. I just asked him, like, well, if this is what you want to do, how do you propose to get there? With or without me?
Yeah.
And if you can't tell me that, not that they're supposed to be able to tell me that, but if you haven't even started thinking about that, then that means you're waiting for me to give you something. And this is not the lottery, and that's where a lot of artists get it tricked. It's like, this is not lottery. You get what I'm saying? Like, those artists that really go out and win Grammy Awards, those processes and those campaigns and those are very intricate, complex, complicated, expensive journeys that get to those levels. You get what I'm saying? So that's why and it's intentional, and that's why those awards are coveted for so many people. But it just really reflects on me as, like, if you want to go that route, then this is what you need to do. You got to be willing to do the work. You got to be willing to want to do better than where you are today. And if you're not going to do that, if you're trying to get lucky, I can't help you.
Good note to end on, right?
Absolutely.
You can't help you if you're trying to get lucky. Next person. Well, thank you for coming and talking with us. We appreciate having you. You are our friend.
Absolutely. Jersey, stand up.
Talk to me.
That's right.
Thank you for checking in for XXL's Inside Track. We appreciate you listening to us and getting to know our guest, Steve Carless.
Thank you for having me.